Hi guys, welcome to Baldy Makes Stuff. If this is your first time watching, welcome to the channel, and if you've come back for more, well, you sucker for punishment you, but thank you very much, I much appreciate it. Cranes have formed a part of Meccano history right since the beginning. The first model that we've got a plan for was in the patent applied for by Frank Hornby when he put the patent in for Meccano back in 1901. That was this picture here, which it's a very basic crane, but a crane nonetheless. And since then, cranes have been an integral part of Meccano. Just about every set that you care to mention has had a crane in it along the way. Perhaps the most famous being the giant block setting crane that's the Everest of Meccano making, if you like. Certainly bigger than anything I've ever made. But, you know, cranes along the way. Going to start today by making this. This is set 4.12, the forge crane. It's a reasonably simple crane to start off with, so, you know, without further ado, let's get on with that. So, model 4.12, the forge crane. What we're going to do first of all is build the base. That's the plan down there. And these are the assembled parts necessary to make it up. I'm going to be using my own collection of nuts and bolts. I prefer to use Allen head nuts with an Allen head driver. This is an Arrow Max. It's a nice little piece of kit. It just makes it a lot easier. I know there are purists out there who would faint away at the prospect of not using the original nuts and bolts, but that's not me. I prefer to make life easier, and to my mind they look just as good when they're finished. I'm not going to inflict on you every nut and bolt going in. You'll get those fast forwarded speed with some corner music over the top of them. But when I've built the base, we'll pause then and we'll just take a closer look so you can see where all the bits go together, and if by any chance you did want to make this model, you can get a look and see how it goes together. So without further ado, let's start building the thing. So we're back with the base finished. There we go. Hope you can see that okay from all angles. That's the rear, that's the front. The bit that I struggled with a little bit, bit of a swine, was getting this fixed on, because if you put those bits on first and then try to mount it, accessing the nuts is nearly impossible. So I ended up taking that back off and attaching those 125s first onto this, and then attaching that onto the base, if that makes sense. That was the only part that was any kind of issue with it, and here we are now. So yeah, let's move on next to doing this part here, which is the support tower, and probably at the same time doing all the framework around there. These are the parts that you need to finish the build off. Right, the rest of it. I have to say, I've always thought that set 4 models were fairly simple models, but when you look at these parts all laid out, you get an appreciation of actually they're not that simple. There's quite a lot of parts involved in putting these together. So yeah, there we go. I don't normally do this. I normally just get the parts as I need them rather than putting them out in one layout beforehand. And I'm quite impressed by how many parts are involved even in a small model. Just to take a closer look, you've got all the various strips that make up the structure of the crane. I've had these nickel plated, which was taking them back to what used to be done in the early days of Meccano. Not that I'm such a purist, but it was the cheapest way of getting some old rough stuff back to a decent condition that I think looks pretty good to use. We've got all the rest of the parts that you need. There's the piece of cord there which still hasn't been broken into, and I'm not going to break into it for this model because I think that would be a shame. Instead, I leave those be and I tend to use more modern hanks of cord, as you see here, for the actual parts themselves. My trusty Meccano buddy showing a normal level of interest in what I'm doing. So we'll just pause it there for you to take a look at the hook and the end of the crane there. Just because they've got the picture there, we'll give you the close up there. I can't see the camera, so I hope that that's giving you a good view on that. And that's on that. I don't have the exact same type of hook that they've got there, or I do have them, but they're busy on other models at the moment, so that's good enough. But yeah, piece of cord around there, and that's how that is. So then, ladies and gentlemen, we give you Meccano 4.12, the forge crane. I'm always surprised how big they are when you've made them. I always think they're going to be much smaller based on the things in the book, but this is actually a reasonable size model, just to give you some idea of scale. That's a 12-inch ruler against that, and you can see the model stands probably about, I don't know, 15 inches tall, something like that. Yeah, 15 inches or so tall. And you know, it works. It's it rotates. It's not a complicated bearing that it's on, but it works. It's the best it could do with the contents of the parts. And the crane itself, when you pull the hook, well, you know, will actually lift something, which is what cranes are for after all. It's called a forge crane. Never having been in the forge, I have no idea if cranes similar to this were in use, but I presume there were. And yeah, I'm quite pleased with it. It's a fairly simple Meccano crane. It does what it says on the tin, and yeah, all in all, pleased with that.